Hello again, and here we are in Swanzey Then and Now. My guest today is Lee Dunham, and I'm Jodi Turner, and we're going to talk a little bit about North Swanzey, focusing more on the Safford Park part of North Swanzey, and then in another show we'll be talking a little bit more about the Wilson Pond kind of North Swanzey Airport, that kind of stuff. But today we have a lot to cover, Lee, on things that I personally love because I love animals. I love nature. I love all of these kinds of things. And the Saffords had horses.
Yes.
They lived over by the airport. If anybody is not familiar with it, Route 32 goes towards Swansea Center from Keene. And
they're at the high point.
They are. They are. And the building that they owned at the time is now called the Inn of the Tartan Fox. Right. So can you tell me a little bit about the history of what it was like and why Safford Park actually began because of the Saffords?
Well, Pearlie Safford, he's the, in our generation we know Norma Safford. She lived there last, and that was their daughter. But Pearlie, he was, his first thing that I saw him do, he traveled, I think, New England, horse and buggy, selling some sort of, I forget whether it's horse liniment or something for horses anyway. That was his first job. And then he went on to be Keene's first Ford dealer. So if you bought your Model T or your Model A, you would have bought it from Pearlie Safford. So he was, I guess I'd call him a wealthy man.
Yeah. He seems like he might have been a little bit of a wheeler-dealer kind of guy.
Well, maybe horse trader.
Right. And that's what I had heard is possibly a horse trader kind of.
They were big into race horses.
Right, right.
And I believe it's the trotters or whatever that you see.
Yep.
And so, and his son was actually a real famous, race driver of horses. Mm-hmm. So, but that's where he made his money. Now, if you remember, Keene used to have a horse track in what's now Edgewood.
Right. And there is a dead elephant in Edgewood. I understand it was buried there. From when Barnum and Bailey's or whatever was
when the
there.
circus came to town.
Yeah, when the circus came to town, yes.
Well, that got developed, and the track went away. Well, Pearlie, guess what? We got to have a track.
Right.
That's where Safford Park comes in. He builds another racetrack miles away on his property off of Route 12 in North Swansea. His property from 32 went all the way back, just the same as the Page Homestead did.
Right, which we'll do another show on too.
So he built this track. Here's a little interesting thing I heard, and I sort of got it corroborated, which is nice to do with history, that this was built in the 20s. Prohibition was in, and the track is built with clay. Now, the clay, they say, was shipped in here from Canada. There might have been something else in those trucks.
Again, the horse trader.
He snuck in booze.
Yeah.
This is, it's something I heard from an old-time person from North Swansea. And then I talked to one of the relatives, and he didn't say no.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Hey, people did what they did. But what I understand is, or this is what I was told, is that there was actually a road that went right from their house over to Safford Park.
Yeah, and that's possibly true, because also the same idea with the Pages. They used to take their cows, bring them to pasture on the other side of Route 12. And they'd do that in the morning and then bring them back at night.
That's quite a ways. So what we're talking about is Route 32 and the space that's in between that to get to Route 12.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's now opened up, and there's a road that goes all the way through, just like sort of like it was before.
Safford Drive.
Right. Oh, that's right. It is called Safford Drive. Yeah.
Aptly named.
Yeah. So Safford Park is what we now know as the Cheshire Fairgrounds.
Right.
Okay. And is it the whole space that's there, or did they buy more land, or?
Well, the only thing I can tell you is that the fairgrounds, when it first started in my memory, was just the land you saw in the beginning, in right off the road, the actual racetrack area. Once you go back to where the parking lot is, I think they acquired that land somewhere in the late 60s or early 70s. because I remember going up there picking rocks as a kid. I mean, because if you remember going up there when they first opened that up, it was not pleasant.
Yeah.
It was not. It was just a landmine for rocks all up through there. So we'd go up there and we'd pick them and move. And,
So we're going to touch a little bit on the fact that they did have horse racing there, and they also did car races there as well. But what I'd like to do, because we have the Cheshire Fairgrounds now, which I hope never dies, because there's so many fairgrounds that are going under, that I just feel like it's just like the buildings, it's just like everything. If we let it go, we'll never get it back.
Yeah.
So as hard as it is, and as much as people have to work on it, we really do need to save these things, in my point of view. And you'll hear me say that a lot, because this is all my point of view. But let's take a look at the first picture that we have. And it looks to me like the 40s or 50s of the Cheshire Fair. It's a grain company that was selling things at the Cheshire Fair.
That one, if you've got really good eyesight, it's 1939.
Well, I was pretty close. Yeah.
And I don't remember that.
No.
But the fair started out as a small fair, and my memory of it would go back into early 60s.
Yeah.
And it was Bolton Hall, and I don't even remember if Kingsbury Hall was there at that point. The President's Building was not there, but the Grange Building. So Bolton Hall, the Grange Buildings were there, and that was about it. And then it had a midway, which was actually in the middle of that track. That's where the midway was. And that was about it.
Right.
So that's my first memories of the fair.
Yeah, and you spent a lot of time at the fair, I understand, when you were growing up.
You have to understand. My dad had Puddin' Holler gift store, and that started probably about the time I was born is when he got into that. And he had an actual brick and mortar store that they went into in, I believe, 62 or so, because I do remember that. And from there, you had an old-fashioned gift store. Where did you go? You went to the fair. So he had a booth in the fair for many, many years. My brother actually got to work at it, and he remembers the fair. This is a little tidbit. Do you know the fair used to be in September?
No. Would it be better to have it in September? It's kind of late.
Well, it'll be a little bit cooler.
No rain, though.
It would be cooler. Maybe you didn't get the rain, but it was 3 days long, and it was in.
I do remember that I read somewhere that it was 3 days long.
It was in September.
Yeah.
And he remembers it because his first year working there, he told me, was 63. And he'd get off the bus. He'd take the bus and go to the fair and work in the afternoon and evening. So.
Well, I have to tell you, even when I was in high school, I took the bus down from downtown to. I did. Because I remember doing this. Now that you're talking about this, and I had a job there for one summer selling ice cones for a gentleman. There was a lot of people there, tons of people.
And if it's hot, everybody wanted those.
Yeah. So I think the fair is just a wonderful thing. Again, my point of view. What I love about the fair is I love the animals. And I love the fact that kids have responsibilities and that they know how to treat other people and other animals in a really fun, simple, family-friendly kind of way. It's not all about, in my point of view, it's not about the midway. Yes, that makes money, and people have fun doing that. But for me, it's about the horses, the cows, the oxen, the horse pulls, the chickens, the pig scramble. Well, I don't know if we can do the pig scramble anymore, but yeah.
But the Cheshire Fair is an agricultural fair, which a lot of people lose sight of. And unfortunately, in the town of Swanzey, pretty much all our farms are now gone. And when I grew up, you still had farms in this town. Now I think Mike is the only one.
Well,
Mike Johnson.
We have Old Bridge Farm in Swanzey Center.
So things are really, horse farms. We have horse farms still.
We do have horse farms, yeah.
But the
not the poultry farms. I mean, Stacy Cole. I mean, look at that whole area out in West Swansea that had all the chickens. And
well, you do realize it, and of course we're coming back to that though.
Right.
With
Which
a
I
lot
think
of
is a good
local
thing.
farms. which is kind of interesting because that's the way it used to be. It used to be back before we could, store eggs and everything. Everybody had chickens, and you had fresh eggs all over the place. And then we had all the local dairies. We had Wheeler and Taylor, Page Homestead Farm in Swanzey, Mackenzie's. I just remember the end of milk being delivered, and that was Ashuelot Dairy.
Well, Knight's Farm.
Yep, Knight's Farm.
On the Surrey Road in Keene.
What I remember about him is the chocolate milk.
Oh, yeah? Well, now you've got Manning Hill, which is the best chocolate milk. But, it is better. And, like the eggs, we have chickens ourselves, and the flavor of fresh eggs compared to what you buy in the store, there's no comparison.
When you see an orange yolk instead of a yellow one.
They're beautiful. Yeah. So let's look at a few of the pictures of some of the kids that we've seen at the fair now. The oxen pulling, I think we've got a picture of that. Now, here you don't have really young kids, but I have seen where they have oxen that are being pulled and aren't hit by the switch hardly at all, and they do great. To me, I admire that, and I understand that this is how they've done things for years.
Now,
but
that doesn't look like the Cheshire Fair, though, does it?
Yeah, it does. It's got the ice thing in the back there.
No, what I remember is before the arena.
Oh, they do it outside.
It used to happen outside.
Right.
By the grandstands out there.
Yeah.
And I believe his name was George Edwards. He called the ox pulling and the horse pulling for years and years.
Yeah.
And if you didn't remember him saying all the way, you just didn't live.
Yeah.
Because that was him.
Yeah. Yeah, such good memories. I hope that, as we're watching, or as you guys are watching these shows, that I hope that you are jogging some of these things that you remember from the past. Next one is, prepping the cows. These kids wearing their white outfits, their white pants, their white shirts. They look, this has got to be the cleanest they've been in weeks. But, the care that they take. The next picture is of prepping the cows here, washing the cows. Cutting all the fur, the hair on them. Is it fur or hair? I don't know.
It'll be hair.
Okay. So, but they're doing all the washing of the animals, getting the sheep ready and all of that. To me, that just shows such pride. And the amount of money that you can win at the fair is incredible. But you can get like $3 for coming in with a blue ribbon? I don't know. But
I haven't done it for years.
No.
So.
But it's not about the money. It's about participating. And having the pride in your animals. We have another picture here of the forestry booth. Charlie, and I don't remember who the other gentlemen are, but this is on the entrance in the back of the Cheshire Fair.
That's the Forest, New Hampshire, Cheshire County Forest Fire Wardens Association. That's what that is.
Yeah, and so everybody stops by. They always have free stuff for people to
Smokey the Bear.
Smokey the Bear is always there too, yeah.
Or Smokey Bear.
Smokey Bear?
Yeah.
Is there a story there?
I always call it Smokey the Bear, but they correct you. Smokey Bear.
Oh, I didn't realize. I've always used the Cheshire Fair, the horse arena.
Horse ring, yeah.
I have to admit, I never really found the importance of horses, and I know anybody that's watching that loves horses is going to be like, what? How could she not? But in the last few years, I've watched, and the horses are amazing. Some of them are just incredible to watch and the things that they can do.
I want you to go back. Before we had the Model A, how did you get to work? How did you do anything?
Horses. Yeah.
So every child learned how to take care of horses back in those days. Mm-hmm. My great-grandfather, I was amazed at him. He lived to be 105. But that guy was born in 1876, and so his first mode of transportation would have been a horse and carriage.
Right.
And then I knew him in the 60s driving a Cadillac. So
what a change.
You just think about, and his most important thing in life, what was the best accomplishment you ever saw?
A good horse.
Paved roads.
Paved roads, really?
Think about it.
Well, yeah, because you didn't have all that mud. Can you imagine the mud that you would have in the spring here?
Right.
Or the rocks, or the frost heaves.
Trying to get from here to there, and it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So.
Well, think about it in the winter when they had all of those things that would...
Snow rollers.
The rollers, just rolling, it's like just not fixing the problem, just going over the problem. But they had sleighs back then.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
horse was,
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah.
Number one in
Yeah.
everybody's household. So that's when you go around and you look at the old houses. The old houses had barns attached and places for horses and
Yep.
carriages. And,
Yeah.
so-
I remember going to my aunt's, just quickly, my aunt's house, and she had always had horses. And I know it's the urine, but I loved the smell of a horse barn. They
Yeah.
just smell so much different. Like a cow barn smells like a cow barn. A horse barn smells like a horse barn.
And it's really interesting. You can still find some places in town, and it's not a lot of them, but the one place that I happen to be actually privileged to go in and look at it was Denman Thompson's son, his Franklin Thompson, his place in West Swansea. The owner said, "Hey, why don't you come in and look at this?" And it's you go through. It's a garage door on the outside, where he parks his car. But then from there on, there's a sliding door, and there's where the horse stalls are still
Beautiful.
there.
I love it.
And you can still, there's an opening in the ceiling so he could drop hay down from
Yep.
above. It's just amazing that
Yeah.
it's still all in
Right.
that building.
And they need to keep that.
Yeah.
That's
It's-
what it's
it's
all
just-
about.
It's just amazing when
Yeah,
you see it.
yeah. So we have a picture of a girl with her cow. She looks very happy. I don't know who she is, but she might have the last name Hayes. I can't say for sure. And then we do have a picture of the Midway. This looks like a few years back, but if you can get through the Midway, you can get to all the other good stuff. I mean, you go along and, the Midway is fun. It brings back memories. The kids always love going on all the little rides and things like that. And the Cheshire Fair does have a lot of really good things. The Woodsman competition, I really encourage people to go to. And that's been going for a long, long time, too. That was way back.
It wouldn't surprise me to have that really get going bigger
love it.
now. Why I say this, I just visited my son out in Arizona.
Yeah.
They've been axe throwing.
It's not hard, and it's not dangerous. People think it is, but it's not at all. And I can teach them how to do it.
When I heard that, I was like, what?
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
been axe throwing.
Because I'm actually the superintendent for the Woodsman competition. Yeah. So anyway, okay. Next picture is sheep. So again, kids taking care of their sheep, doing what they have to do to, win their awards. I'm sure their parents are after them to,
And again,
make a good show.
Yeah, sheep were a big industry here.
Yeah. And back in the mid 1800s.
Yeah, until you get the trains in 1849, 1850,
Mm-hmm.
and then once it was easier to pull wool into the mills, then we lost the sheep. So.
Right, right. But when you look at the surroundings, I've been doing a lot since I've been doing research for some of these shows. I look at the trees a lot more. Like there's not a lot of old growth trees.
No.
You've got a lot of little spindly trees. I look at the stone walls, and I wonder to myself,
They're everywhere.
they are. But were they because they were just getting rid of the rocks? Did those people actually keep sheep? What are the reasons that they had it? Was it just a border? There's lots of reasons for different things, and different places that different things. So I have started looking at things in a different way, a little deeper than just driving by.
Yeah.
Because there's so many stories to tell that
I like to
need to be told.
when you drive down some of the New Hampshire state roads.
Yeah.
You just take a look at them. The old road used to do this,
Uh-huh.
and you'll see the new roads going down the middle. And
Right.
if you look off to the side, you'll see the stone walls.
Uh-huh.
And they go away on one side, and then they go off the other side.
Right.
Those were the old roads.
Yeah.
And they're still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I'd like to go into the Yale Forest a little bit and see the old highway. I haven't been down there for a while, but there's just so many little roads along the way and going down the railroad bed and different things like that. Okay, so let's hit on the cars. So they did horse racing because Safford's like the horses, but they also had car racing down at the Cheshire Fairgrounds.
Yeah. I don't know an awful lot about it, but trying to look, I know Al Lange, who is no longer with us, did a lot of research into it. And this seems to be in the 50s that all this happened. And it had both a third-mile track and a half-mile track. So the half-mile track is what you see on, out by the road.
Right.
Third-mile track was,
Inside the
to
Midway,
where
sort
the
of.
Midway was.
Ah.
And I think that went away probably as was, I don't remember it really. So
Yeah, yeah. And this last picture that we have here.
That's 1939. That's on Wilson Pond. That's Walt Ruffles, because it says Walt's Garage on the
Oh,
front
yeah?
of it. Ice racer.
Right.
They used to race cars on Wilson Pond.
Don't be telling anybody about this. I don't want any cars going out there. But no, but seriously, they used to do a lot around Wilson Pond.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't matter if it was summer or winter, but in this case, they had the cars and they were going around, and I don't know, I just can't imagine, but they do that up on Winnipesaukee, I think, as well.
Yeah,
And
there's another place. I
Yeah.
won't remember where it
Yeah.
is, but I know somebody that does it. So.
So some of the other things that we could just touch on, we've only got a few more minutes left, but let me see. Let's see. Some of the restaurants that were over in this area. So I know the Black Lantern was in Marlborough, which was kind of
Right.
like, it's kind of in between Swansea and Troy.
And
There's a little
Swansea
part
and
that
Troy.
comes in that's Marlborough. And we all have really great memories of the
And-
fritters.
But Hector Dion is the one that did the Black Lantern, and he was a Swansea resident.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It
And then
gives
you
us
have,
something.
you have the Alps, which is sort of close to
And the Alps,
Swansea
I'd
Center,
like
but
yeah.
I wish they still had that. I love that restaurant.
Yeah, we went there all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. German food was delicious. My husband was a dishwasher there when he was in high school. Yeah. A&W root beer.
A&W Root Beer. It was on Route 12.
Yeah.
That's
where the Northeast footwear is.
Footwear is.
Yeah.
That's where is. Think about this. In the 60s, where could you get soft? It's the only place that you could get soft ice cream, and I think I loved it, and I still do.
Well, and then there was Hayward Farm,
Hayward
where
Farms.
Papagallo's is now.
Yep.
And I remember that. It was just a big white building. It's been through a couple of different restaurateurs, along the way.
Yeah,
But
it went from Hayward Farms to Jimmy's.
yeah,
and then-
Jimmy's to Libby's, I think.
Yeah, it could have been.
Somewhere along the
Yeah.
line. Yeah. Yep. And then now it's Papagallo's. And let me see. And another staple that I remember out in West Keene, actually, was the mini golf.
Oh, yes.
I know that it's nowadays, but the miniature golf,
Yeah, it started
Twinkletown.
off. Yeah, Twinkletown started off by the Moose Hall.
Exactly.
And then I
lived
moved
out in that
across
area.
the street.
Yep, to where the lodge was.
to Winding Brook Lodge.
Yep.
And then
And then
it
went
came
down
down
to
to
Swansea.
Swansea.
Yeah, yeah. So I have one other location I wanted to ask you quickly about. Where Sam's is.
Okay, Sam's.
Was there a mansion there at one time before? Do you remember?
I do not remember, because in the 60s it was the Volkswagen garage
Okay.
when Volkswagens first came in.
Yeah. So it was a ways back.
It would have been quite a ways back.
Yeah.
But if you just go up the hill on the other side, well, if you look at Sam's Army Navy right now, and you go up the hill, there's a barn,
Yeah.
and then there's the green.
Yeah.
They actually moved the road. The road used to be down by closer to Sam's.
Oh.
They moved that in the 70s.
Yep.
There used
And you
to
know
be,
what? We're going to have to stop. Okay. We will see you again. Swanzey Then and Now. Come on and join us again, and we'll be talking more about North Swansea. We'll see you soon. Oh.